Tonight on Joynews Prime, President Akufo-Addo leads a government delegation to the home of the late President Rawlings to commiserate with the family.
It's so difficult to believe that the man I knew was a very dynamic, energetic, vital human being is today a corpse.
A delegation from the NDC was also at the residence.
Our pain by his demise, we are saddened because it is a huge vacuum that has been created. But we take consolation in the fact that he has served his nation well, he has served the African continent well, he has served the global community well.
The Ghana Armed Forces also observed a minute's silence for the late president.
May his soul and the souls of all the faithful departed rest and abide in the bosom of the Almighty.
Meanwhile, more tributes continue to pour in for the late former president.
After Nkrumah, nobody is bigger than Jerry Rawlings. As we vote next month to elect a new president, we should be guided by the principle of peace and tranquility, which Rawlings espoused when he was in office.
Tonight, we'll speak with the managing editor of the Daily Dispatch newspaper who covered former President Rawlings for more than 40 years in business.
In business, Ghana to fight for debt forgiveness for African economies as it readies to be part of next year's Africa Development Bank meeting.
Also in the bulletin, the West African Examinations Council has released the results for the first set of students to have benefited from free SHS. We'll be telling you about the results. My name is Israel. And Joynews Prime is coming to you live from our Fan of studios at Kukumlimli here in Accra on your digital terrestrial TV, because we're free to air. And also on DSTV channel 421 and GoTV channel 144. This is the home of independent, fearless, credible, and impactful journalism. Do stay tuned in. President Akufo-Addo on Friday paid a reciprocal visit to the home of the late President Rawlings to commiserate with the family. It follows Thursday's visit by the family to inform him of the demise of the statesman who was Ghana's longest-serving head of state. The 73-year-old Jerry John Rawlings died at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital from COVID-19 complications, having spent a few days at the ICU. The founder of the opposition National Democratic Congress was last seen in public on October 19 during the final funeral rites of his mother, Victoria Agbotui. At the residence of Mr. Rawlings to receive President Akufo-Addo was the widow and former First Lady, Nana Konadu-Agyeman Rawlings, her daughters and immediate family members. Member of Parliament for Klote Kole, Dr. Zaneto Rawlings, said the family is still in shock.
On one hand, he managed to send his mother off first, which was one of his concerns, which he made a point of mentioning in his tribute to his late mother. And as you rightly said, the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh. And we cannot comprehend the reason why, but we do have to understand that this is the reality of our lives. It may not be today, it may not be tomorrow, but the certainty is that death is something we all have to live with at some point. We have to face. Your Excellency, the family has only, things are still up in the air. We are yet to discuss the date of the funeral, and as such, what we can do today is to thank you once again for paying us a visit today and honoring us, and to let you know we will work closely with the Chief of Staff and with State Protocol to ensure that the wishes of both are honored as much as possible, both the family and of the state, to ensure that this goes off without a bit of a problem at all. We go through smoothly, and honor the memory of the man he was.
President Akufo-Addo described the contribution of the late president to the nation as enormous, for which the country will continue to show appreciation.
I find it so difficult to believe that the man I knew was a very dynamic, energetic, vital human being is today a corpse. But then it's an experience that will come to each one of us in our turn. The Almighty's own choosing. It's not our choosing, it is of His. So when I heard the news, I had the Chief of Staff make contact with you to let you know that who he was, the position that he occupied in our nation, and his contribution to our country, its development and history. His obsequies, his departure, has to be the responsibility of the Ghanaian nation. They are going to be writing volumes and volumes about his contribution to Ghana. Whatever be the case, his passage at the leadership of our nation will not be forgotten. So I let the Chief of Staff indicate to you that I felt it was also appropriate that the formal announcement of his death be that of the responsibility of the President. And it's on that basis that I announced to the country his passage. In the evening, we sent a delegation involving Colonel Abutui, Laguji, your eldest of your children, and the others, to come and officially inform me of it. I indicated then again that whatever arrangements are going to be made are going to be the arrangements of the state of Ghana. We have to make sure that this man is given a befitting state burial. His contribution to our country is enormous in many, many, many grounds. And our nation must show its true appreciation of his work and output here in Ghana.
Chairman of the opposition NDC, Samuel Ofosu-Ampofo, who led the party to the residence of the late president, pledged the party will fully cooperate with the state to ensure their founder is given a befitting burial.
Our funeral as a party, and for that matter, we are preparing to participate fully in every aspect of the funeral to give a befitting, farewell to one of the illustrious sons of this country, His Excellency Jerry John Rawlings, for his outstanding contribution of democracy and the fact that he led the Fourth Republic Constitution, which has stood the test of time and has provided the greatest period of stability in the socio-economic and political life of our country. We are pained by his demise. We are saddened because it is a huge vacuum that has been created. But we take consolation in the fact that he has served his nation well, he has served the African continent well, he has served the global community well, and he will be fondly remembered for all the positive contribution he made towards the growth and development of humanity.
Minority leader Haruna Idrisu said the sudden death of the former president has created an irreplaceable void in the party and the country. In a sarcastic tone, the Tamale South MP said the funeral belongs to the NDC and the party will not allow anyone to come and cry more than the family members and members of the NDC.
The sudden departure creates a void that we believe will be difficult, if not impossible, to fill. He's left a heritage and a legacy of consciousness, of probity, justice, and accountability as values and standards that should guide aspiration to public office and public service. We are devastated and grief, but we have a duty not just to mourn him, but to preserve his heritage. His heritage has contributed enormously to Ghana being a beacon of hope, a functional multi-party constitutional democracy, navigating the difficult waters of a transition from militarism to multi-party constitutional rule. Today, fundamental human rights and freedoms are upheld, including your own media freedoms, thanks to his sacrifices and judgment in ushering Ghana in as the first president of the Fourth Republic. So we are devastated and grief, but be assured that this is our funeral. You cannot come to my mother's funeral and weep more than me. So we mourn with the Ghanaian people and the state. He was also an international icon and have made monumental contribution into reforming the economic and political landscape of our country.
Former Chief of Defense and a member of the Provisional National Defense Council government, Brigadier Nunu Mensah, said the death of the founder of the NDC should rally the country towards a peaceful election come December 7.
After Nkrumah, nobody is bigger than Jerry Rawlings, because he ruled the country longer than any other president in this country here. So even Nkrumah said what Nkrumah said from 51 to government business, leader government business, then prime minister, president, all about 51, 50, not 15, 50, about 15 years. He served about 19, 20 years. So the name is quite a big name. People like you don't have any name that you can remember without history, except Jerry Rawlings. Nkrumah, you didn't know him. So it's hard to run effect on our development. And he burst onto the scene some 41 years ago, 79, the part of Ghana over these 41 years. So you cannot push him away. So what I think that we people should do is to learn about his life, the positive sides of his life, which there are plenty of it. Find out what they are and learn to make Ghana a better place. We have elections coming very soon. People are talking about war. No need for war. If Rawlings went to war with the coup d'etat, it was to create a peaceful Ghana, not to make Ghana warlike. The idea was set up a system of government which will make everybody happy enough not to create havoc in this country. So if today we are talking about going to war, MPP and are talking about going to war, that's the most unfortunate. That should not be the objective. But then we should have a peaceful country.
So are you saying that his death should unite the country as we go into the election?
Yeah, the country should be, in fact, his death should actually propel us into more peaceful election. That's the reason why Rawlings came onto the scene, to make Ghana a more peaceful and prosperous country. People don't understand. He didn't come to power to amass wealth, to acquire wealth. He came to create a country which will be at peace with itself. So if Ghana today, MPP start talking about war and war and war and war, is not what Rawlings wished for. So it should be rather, as we vote next month, to elect a new president, we should be guided by the principle of peace and tranquility, which Rawlings espoused when he was in office.
Member of Parliament for South Dai in the Volta region, Roxin Dafil, who said he provided legal advice to the late former president on some national issues, tells Joynews how the late soldier took a personal interest in his growth within the political landscape and how his demise affects him personally.
In fact, I do visit him frequently. As I speak to you, I brought him fish just about a month ago when the mother died. He asked me to bring him. There's a huge fish. It's about human size. We call it lensi. So he asked me to bring him some for the funeral. So the flax is even, the ice chest is actually in the house now, and I do visit him. He took some particular interest in me.
Did he have any impact on your life?
Yes. I'm turning out to be a very good politician, and I think I owe it to him. And I remember particularly, he raised the issue of indemnity clauses about a couple of months back. And so he summoned me and said, well, he has spoken, he's raised the issue, but he needed serious legal advice on the consequences. And after I gave him some sort of lecture on the ramifications of the indemnity clauses being taken out of the Constitution. It was like a deja vu here. We woke up and said, well, we then have to live it the way it is, you know, and we laughed about it. So, you know, so it's a huge loss, particularly.
The late former President Jerry John Rawlings is most remembered for successfully leading 2 coups d'etats on the principles of probity, accountability, and equitable distribution of resources. These principles form the bedrock of the political party he founded, which has led the country for 16 out of the 28 years of the Fourth Republic. There are, however, those who complain that elements within his party have abandoned these principles for personal gain. His close confidant and appointee, Dr. Benjamin Kumbo, recounts how this view was expressed on several occasions by the late Jerry John Rawlings. He spoke with Daniel Dante on a yet-to-be-aired episode of On the Record.
Okay. I think that was his biggest Achilles heel, because anytime we met, after talking, the conclusion would always be, then you people remember that people paid the ultimate price for 1/10 of what is going on today. Most of our comrades, good ones, lost their life in the process of both June 4th and 31st December. And that is his regret. Because there is nothing to show that the people really died for Ghana to be a better place from the indications of what was happening. That has always been a very passionate, and he was a bit more, he was angrier where he perceived that some of these things were taking place within his own political party. That was his biggest problem. Because I've been telling people, if you don't draw, you don't take the pathway of his reasoning. I came as head of the system. We shot and killed people perhaps for taking 500 cedis loan from a bank. We did this to this person, we did this to this person. In the process, there were attempts to overthrow the government. Soldiers in the front line got shot and were killed. We those who survived it till today, is that the best we can do? By going back to those very, very things. This is where his biggest problem has always been.
Especially with this party.
Yes, but the problem is that, you know, it's very easy when you are young and you've not seen much of many things. Oh, people like to talk about the PNDC. NDC is, we now have a new NDC. We are not interested in the revolutionary origin. Do they know the history of the Democrats in America? Do they know the history of the Republicans? Do they know the history of New Labour in the UK? People need to understand that every political party or political association has had its dark sides, which they don't celebrate.
Editor of the Herald newspaper, Larry Dogbe, however, disagrees with Dr. Kumbo. He spoke on Prime Morning.
I think Kumbo was wrong saying that, oh, you know something, the party. Listen, there are various segments of Christianity. Okay. But I mean, there's a common, you know, theme that runs through all of it. Is Jerry's probity in you? Is it in Shira? Is his accountability in, you know, your cameraman and everybody? If it's in them, then we can be in a position to then judge whether or not his immediate church, which is the party, is, you know, living up to that. For me, I don't want to limit Jerry Rawlings to NDC. When I was coming, I think I was listening to BBC. They had some, you know, story about him. And then I was watching Dr. Vela yesterday. They did something. Apparently, Nigeria is like Jerry. Nigeria owns Jerry, and they are celebrating him, the Kenyan president. So many world leaders are, you know, celebrating Jerry.
For Dr. Benjamin Kumbo again, the ability of millions of Ghanaians in the northern part of the country to drink refrigerated water or watch television is an everlasting testament to the former president's leadership. I do apologize for that, but the full interview with Dr. Benjamin Kumbo airs on Joy Prime TV's current affairs show On the Record on Monday at 8 p.m. Now, a book of condolence has been opened at the Accra International Conference Center for the late former President J.J. Rawlings. President Akufo-Addo and his vice, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, have been to sign it. What President Akufo-Addo wrote, though, not too clear, has been deciphered by some. Let's read it together and see if you agree that's what is written. Your role in the establishment and development of the Fourth Republic as the most enduring republic of our history is truly exceptional. Ghanaians appreciate your leadership of our nation and will remember you accordingly. For me, I appreciate very much your friendship. Commandant, farewell and rest peaceful in the bosom of the Almighty. Now, other dignitaries and members of the public have also signed and given testimonies about the former president. Now, former President John Mahama has also signed the Book of Condolence, and here's what he wrote. Boss, it is difficult to come to terms with your shocking exit, but you've always been unconventional and acted on your own terms. The rest of us, your comrades, are left to mourn you. But beyond mourning your departure, we have a duty and responsibility to ensure that your passing and your principles receive their deserved place in the history of Ghana. Leader of the revolution, founder of the Fourth Republic, and midwife of the longest period of democratic governance in history, and nobody can take that away. Fare thee well, boss. We're taking a break, but still to come in the bulletin, we'll have that interview with Ben Evsing, the managing editor of the Daily Dispatch newspaper, who has covered the late former President Rawlings for more than 40 years. And then we'll also bring you the results of the West African Examinations Council. That's the result for the first set of students to have benefited from free SHS. Do stay tuned in. Up next, we bring you business news.
And it's time for business. I'm Charles Aite. Now, the former finance minister said Tekpe has recounted the economic legacy of the late former president, Jerry Rawlings. For the business community, his legacy lives on for the various interventions into Ghana's economy since the beginning of the Fourth Republic. Mr. Tekpe spoke to us on the marketplace.
Without doubt, the policies, have shaped, the present-day economic management. And the reason I say that is that one would have to go beyond 1983 in the past to see a situation where Ghana's economy went up and down almost every year, between growth and recession. I think the launch of the structural adjustment program between 1983 and 1985, to be precise, that brought about the stability in fiscal and monetary management, as well as real sector strategies that we see today. One useful indicator, the most headline of all, which is growth, is that I have repeated that since 1983, when achieved a very high growth as a result of the structural adjustment program or economic recovery program, Ghana for nearly 40 years has not experienced negative growth, even when other major African economies are facing recession. One example being between 2014 and 2015, when crude oil prices fell, and as a result of our domestic pressures like DIMSO and others, in addition to the global financial crisis, a decade, Ghana did not go into recession at the time Nigeria, Angola, South Africa, and others went into recession. And that is because of the inherent adjustments.
Well, Joy Business has been going through the archives of the former president's economic reforms, and George Rafi has filed this report today.
It all started around 1983 with the Economic Recovery Program under the guidance of the IMF and the World Bank, which was aimed at reducing the country's total debt stock at that time. This was to ensure that Ghana would be in a better position to pay back its debt on time, stabilize the economy, and attract the required capital into the country. Fast forward, there was a new initiative, that is, the Program of Action to mitigate the social cost of all these adjustment programs, popularly called PAMSCAT. It was under this program that we saw some serious rural development, the water and sanitation program, and moved electricity supply to several rural parts in the country. Well, how can one forget the value of that tax and the initiative by President Rawlings, which was met with some great opposition at that time that was introduced. However, for some, it has gone down as one of the best tax types currently in the country. In 1995, President Rawlings presented to Parliament a document titled Vision 2020. This was aimed at making Ghana a middle-income country by that date. But it appears we achieved this status even before the year 2020. According to some analysts, economic events, happenings, and policies under the reign of former President Rawlings indeed has influenced current economic programs. We can also not forget about his two right-arm men, that is Professor Kwesi Botchwey and Kwame Pepra, who spearheaded some of his major economic programs, and how they still continue to play some essential role in the broader economy of today.
Well, the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, has also described the death of former President Jerry Rawlings as that of a vacuum in the opposition party NDC, but also a time for sober reflection.
My mother-in-law was a squadron leader in the Air Force and therefore worked with President Rawlings, and so there was quite a special relationship going forward. I think really it's for the country, basically rewrote our history in a way that impacted people very differently, and some very difficult moments in the earlier years, and then finally a democratic rule of the Fourth Republic, which is the most sustaining republic that we have had. And so we have to really give him the credit for that. It leaves a big hole in the opposition's political party in terms of their source of inspiration, and we all look forward to see, how they'll manage going forward. But I think it's a period for sober thought, reflection, and just really beginning to reimagine what the future will be like.
And that'll be all for business. Sports is up next.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the sports segment with me, Reiko Ampofo. The big story coming in from the local scene is the Ministry of Youth and Sports has directed that the Ghana Premier League matches should be played behind closed doors. The move is part of measures to curb the spike of COVID-19 cases.
In September, President Akufo-Addo announced that stadiums will be open to fans when the top flight commences, but only up to 25% of the facility's capacity with the compulsory wearing of face masks. But due to the recent spike in coronavirus cases, the ministry has announced that games should be played without fans. A statement by the ministry said, and I read, in line with the directives of CAF to organize football matches behind closed doors without spectators in the midst of COVID-19 pandemic spike globally, the Ministry of Youth and Sports directs that all sporting events, including the Premier League matches, should be organized behind closed doors and without spectators. Many believe that the move by the Ministry of Youth and Sports, barely 24 hours to the commencement of the new football season, would affect the plans of clubs, with most clubs' inability to attract corporate sponsorship. Revenue from gate process becomes their core source of generating money. However, with this recent announcement by the Ministry of Youth and Sports, it means that spectators will not be at the stadium. The football season was suspended in March before the GFA officially cancelled it on June 30. Many clubs already decried the financial hardship caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, and with this recent announcement, it appears clubs would have to wait longer before fans will be permitted to the stadia, as the ministry indicated that the current announcement is indefinite. The Ghana Premier League will start on Saturday, 14th November, with a fixture involving former league champions Aduana Stars and Accra Hearts of Oak.
Well, one of the impacts that clubs would be feeling from this decision by the Ministry of Youth and Sport is going to be financially, because certainly money is not going to be coming in from gate proceeds anymore. And if you want to find out how exactly clubs are going to cope with this news, just less than 24 hours to the start of the new season, you should tune into the Joy News channel at 9:30 p.m. when the Joy GPL Primer comes your way. This time is not the Hearts edition or the Kotoko edition. We are looking at the league in whole without Hearts and Kotoko, and then looking at how clubs are going to prepare and of course cope with this big news coming in as well. But still on the Ghana Premier League, which starts tomorrow, and Techiman 11 Wonders say that they are poised to give Asante Kotoko a tough start to the new Premier League season. The Techiman B-side club lost the opening game last season against the Porcupine Warriors, but they are optimistic they can right their wrongs this time around.
With the Ghana Premier League set to kickstart this weekend after a long break as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, the Techiman 11 Wonders, the only Premier League club in the Bono East region, lock horns with the Porcupine Warriors, Kumasi, Asante Kotoko at the Accra Sports Stadium. Ahead of this all-important opener, the Techiman Bees club is leaving no stone unturned as it trains at the Ohene Amiao Park prior to the club's trip to the nation's capital, Accra. Though the club is yet to record its first victory against Kotoko since joining the top flight league, it hopes to depend largely on the experience of the likes of John Mosi, who is currently the acting skipper of the side.
Kotoko a big team. Mean team cast on your big team senior. But football need a pitch and so on. Yeah, Bob on. I think the supporters need now join CBO, Techiman 11 Wonders, the other Kotoko Beshay, and work can be by Yakopon, any scene. To me, I think the Waba, how shall have a training ground and a camp, Mulan or camp now. Midi say Yakopo man and Sasso Dakosieda.
The experienced goalkeeper tells me that the club has nothing to lose in this encounter with Kumasi Asante Kotoko.
So far, the MG say Yabo, Kotoko a big team, and I know yet to say John Funo, that form in Surusikan, Kotoko and I then, or Nusru, because there's a Kotoko share, 11 Wonders and you by 11 Wonders share Kotoko a news. And you know, I think say Yuguso, your bomb pie baby and Yankopon, your bomb prize in Yakopo man and Sasso. So man and Sasso Kundi, the idea and these or the Bemai.
For the team manager Amu Mubarak, enough preparations has been in place ahead of this clash, and the team will return home with the needed points.
They started pre-season, you know, with some matches being about Sunday and Lukumasa about Yankopon and an army of the Roma. They also have the board team, no team, the Cobo Ball no be there. Yet almost 90%.
Administrative manager and a member of the communications team, Mr. Ali Mohammed, tells me that all COVID-19 protocols will be observed strictly in the club's home games to curb the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic.
But we're still going heavy in on the Ghana Premier League, and that's because it commences tomorrow, and there's been questions flying around about the lack of sponsorships to clubs financially, especially as we have not heard anything concerning the headlines to our sponsors for the new Premier League season. But Secretary General of the Ghana FA, Prosper Addo, has made an interesting comment which we would be revealing to you in the second part of the sports segment. So do manage to stay with the Joy News Prime, and then also keep an eye out on the second part of the sports segment when I bring you that news as well. But my name is Oreku Ampofo. That's the sports for now.
All right, it's time for Showbiz, and Aisha Ibrahima's journey. Hello, Aisha.
Hi, Israel. How are you?
I'm fine. It's been a while since I had you on set.
Yes, it's good to be by you, Yep. Of course, it's been a sad day for Ghana since the announcement of the demise of the ex-president Rawlings. And many tributes are pouring in from all quarters. One person who's been recounting her moments with the ex-president is Akosua Japan. She says she's learned a lot from the man, the ever-charismatic ex-president Rawlings.
When I saw her in my office a few weeks ago, I don't know what I said to her, how beautiful she was still looking. But after she left, I was commenting to someone that she's looking as beautiful as my wife.
Easy. I was sitting right here when somebody called to tell me that I've lost my dad, the owner of Talent. And I'm being honest with you, he's a dad. I mean, way back 1990, he has really been supportive where my musical career is concerned. I'll start from when Angelique Kidjo came to Ghana, my 25th anniversary. Any program that I do, when I invite him, if he can't make it, either my mom, that is Mrs. Rollins, or he'll send somebody to come.
Well,
So sad.
Lots of people have nice things to say.
And I watched that video, I mean the full video. It's so sad when you look at how the man is so friendly everywhere. And his wife was sitting right there and he was doing all of that. you just could tell he did it with a pure heart. May he so rest in peace. But of course, dancehall artist Sarkodie, Stone Boy, forgive me, has released a tribute video in honor of the late ex-president Rawlings, and he captioned the video, "Live like a warrior and die like a soldier. Life is the battle of the fittest and the race is not for swift. Hashtag real warrior, rest in peace, JJ Rawlings."
Bim!
Bim, bim, bim. He really lived
It's
like...
a good one. I mean, I like the song.
He lived like a warrior, definitely, and died like a soldier. Rest in peace, he says. Real warrior. But of course, people continue to talk about their moments with the ex-president. I had my moment in Ethiopia with him. It was fun. I was just standing somewhere and the guys were taking pictures and all. They said, "Abba, why are you standing there? Come." And then he just grabbed me, and then normally he would put his hand around your neck. So I have that picture boldly displayed in my living room, and a lot of people are sharing their moments with the former President Rawlings.
Shami Niji Nuhunam Ndoso Nebu Tetekodanu or Shami no Mia.
My colleague, ministers of state, honorable lecturers of the various faculties, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I think I prefer the lady. I prefer the lady.
In spite of all these, Anita, what does that make of us? Anita, mi Frau die Unti. Anita, si mi yenu papa. Mi yenu papa Suzuki. In spite of all these, but she's getting too fair. Enjoy Sani Amanu Samano, and yet see, I am about Itimaminka. And she let you remember to now, let us send me a papa. Anita. Binu mind disease so ya darga for Many years later, when I go here, Madam Fathia Nkrumah, the wife, Jana Kufoye. Okra no coffee no Madam Fathia no coffee or this Shana Kotojun no more no alpha handkerchief towel. No, yes, sir.
But what you say, we go to Germany.
Yeah, I mean, but he created a lot of humor.
Oh my goodness, we'll miss the JJ Rawlings. I mean, if not for anything, some of these humors are our only grandpa.
Yeah. And you know, there are all these stories that have made the rounds about him and Yoka Gary.
Yes.
You know, Red. Yeah. So there's a story about one such in Takrady. We have that story coming up later on in the bulletin. But that'll be all for those of you who are watching on Joy Prime. Thank you very much, Aisha, for coming on. We are bringing you more news after the break. Stay tuned in. The Ghana Armed Forces on Friday observed a minute silence in honor of late former President Rawlings at the commissioning of new officers into the army. The former president, who died Thursday, served as a flight lieutenant prior to his retirement from the army. At the Ghana Military Academy Friday, President Akufo-Addo led a prayer for his soul.
In honor of the memory of the late president, first president of the Fourth Republic, and former commander-in-chief of the Ghana Armed Forces, His Excellency Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings, one of your own, who yesterday joined his ancestors. Pray! Pray! May his soul and the souls of all the faithful departed rest and abide in the bosom of the Almighty until the last day of the resurrection, when we shall all meet again. Amen.
The president has meanwhile announced a $200 million injection into the Security and Intelligence Agency for the procurement of armored vehicles and other equipment to boost operational efficiency of the army. Inducting the officers into the army, President Akufo-Addo said the country is relying on the security agencies to deal with any domestic security threats, including the fight against the coronavirus pandemic.
I echo to all, particularly the commander of the Ghana Military Academy, and the hard-working instructors for a job well done. Let me use this platform to extend the appreciation of a grateful nation to the officers, men and women of the Ghana Armed Forces for their sacrifice and high sense of patriotism in their contribution to the fight against the virus. The battle against the pandemic is still raging, and I will continue to count on you until we emerge victorious. Ladies and gentlemen, the traditional challenges to security, such as chieftaincy conflicts, land disputes, religious intolerance, ethnic conflicts, and political rivalry, are being compounded by contemporary threats like drug and human trafficking, proliferation of small arms and light weapons, armed robberies, cybercrime, and activities of nomadic herdsmen. Today, the challenges to Ghana's national security are numerous, complex, and sometimes quite unpredictable. Nonetheless, and in the face of all these threats, the Ghana Armed Forces continues to discharge its duties equitably and professionally. All of us owe a debt of gratitude to you, the men and women of the armed forces, for being prepared to put your lives on the line to keep our nation safe and safeguard our sovereignty.
Now, 1111 is a popular Ghanaian beans joint, also known as Red, established over 50 years ago and which has fed many mouths in the Sekondi Takrady metropolis, including the late former President Jerry John Rawlings, when he served as an officer at the Takrady Air Force Base. Rumor even has it that the late president accumulated quite a bit of debt for meals he bought on credit. Natalia Kwanzaa has been finding out from the owner of the popular Red joint if that was true. Now, many have been the tributes that have poured in for the late Jerry John Rawlings. Editor of the Daily Dispatch newspaper and Paul F. Singh covered him as a journalist for more than 40 years, and for a significant part of that period, the freedoms of the press were curtailed. Mr. F. Singh joins me now via Zoom with his recollection of events and Rawlings. Thank you very much, Mr. F. Singh. So, as I was indicating earlier, a short while ago, you had covered him for many years, and for that period, quite a lot happened. And I'd want you to look at his legacy. First of all, as a journalist, for some of us, we knew him as the newsmaker, because each time he spoke, he gave us a lot of news. What was it like during your time?
Good evening, viewers, and good evening, Israel. I think that I started writing for foreign magazines when I was 17 in our school, the best school, Accra. And by the time Liman came, I was about 22, and when Rawlings handed over to Liman, at some point in time, we observed that he was being given open surveillance. So I did articles in the foreign media about harassment of Rawlings, and I had said in the articles that if the Liman government thought that he was being a security risk, they should charge him. So we became friends. Fast forward, after the overthrow of Liman, things started going bad. You know, there were excesses by the military, beatings, tortures. I started taking him on, and at one stage he called me and said, "Look, my friend, you can't stand in the middle of the road, a car will knock you." Meaning I had to turn a kind of a blind eye. We disagreed. And during the PNDC, there was a PNDC Law 3, which gave the head of state the power to detain you as long as he wished. We go back, we see Prade spent about a year plus in prisons. I had my share. I had 5 months in solitary confinement. We came out, and I continued to work there for the BBC and West Africa magazine. But I must say that Rawlings came to power on the back of socialism, not ever negotiating with the Bretton Woods institutions, that is the World Bank and IMF, but people like Wesibuchi, their Hoys, they made him know that, look, with the coup that removed Liman, Nigeria had blocked oil supplies. People were queuing 3 days for 2-3 gallons of fuel. Pregnant women were standing at trucks to Kumasi and so on. So we went to the IMF. Along the line, there was clampdown on the media, but we all briefed through it. It got to a state that I think he felt the pressure that people were kind of tired of the military rule. So he asked the late Justice Annan, a member of the PNDC, then to collect and find out views And the report was that majority of Ghanaians wanted a return to constitutional rule. Even the composition of the assembly to craft the laws gave you an idea of Rawlings' view that common sense is not only in the educated. They were hairdressers, tailors, seamstresses. The constitution was promulgated. A government set a timetable that was a return to civilian rule. And his party, he formed a party, the NDC, and he won 2 4-year terms. Now, the 2000 elections, his party lost. He had to hand over to the opposition party led by President Kufuor. I must say, from hindsight, he had majority in parliament, he could have found a way to make maybe instead of 2-term, 3-term. Just last month, we've had Ouattara extending his 2-term to 3-term. He went through, it was a bit uncomfortable from 10 years of military rule to now constitutional rule. But I think that Israel summing it up, I think that he played his part. He led us through some momentous times. I mean, I think his influence and like by the military after executing 8 people, first Achampon Utuka and the remaining 6, the quest to execute a list of 40 officers and some prominent Ghanaians was put on the back burner.
Now, Mr. Essing, I want us to go back to the period when you encountered him first, when he was telling you that you would have to, if you stand in the middle of the road, a car is going to knock you. I understood it differently, though. To me, it sounded like you had to take a position and you can't be in the middle of the road. I don't know how.
Yes, yes, it's true. And I told him, we discussed it. I said, look, when Liman was harassing you, I defended you. And you are the head of state. The good you take it, the bad. Your guys are beating people. And I think that one of the things that egged him was that I was sending the reports to BBC, it was being broadcast, writing for West Africa magazine. People were reading it. And I said, look, that is what it is, you know. And no, I mean, after that, we became good friends once. I and him attended a common friend's cousin's funeral, but I had to leave soon after the service. And the friend called me that, Ben, I've seen Jerry with the cook and opener in hand, was asking of you to come and serve you. It was no hard feelings, but everybody was kind of doing his job. He felt that I had taken a risk, taking on Liman on his behalf, and he didn't expect me to be publishing those excesses by the military, but I explained and I insisted that if it was good, you take the credit. One is debit, you have to deal with it.
Now, Mr. Epstein, again, during that era, we didn't have the kind of media freedoms that we're enjoying now. And so I find that relationship you had with him quite interesting. How were you able to balance that?
One thing I must say, and this is the first time maybe I'm saying it. If Rawlings was brutal, like other African leaders, journalists like myself, Kwekuk Bakun, Kwesi Pratt, civil society activists like Graham, Akoto Ampao would have disappeared. And I think that the judge's murder was not his handiwork. It was something that went wrong. I believe that, and I'm saying it because you're an old cracker boy, I believe that the original plan was to threaten them, warn them, because they had been reversing the judgments of the AFRC courts. That was, I hear, the original plan. Major Akpa was added because Amatekwe, a union leader of GIHOC, led workers of GIHOC to attack Parliament then, during their tea sessions, break up everything there. And Major Akpa was the personnel manager at GIHOC, and he sent these letters of Amatekwe and the staff. So Amatekwe being added, Major Akpa being added was Amatekwe's own idea of punishing the man. So for me, the investigations I did at that time you couldn't come out to pinpoint those who are responsible. Because if I believe you wanted those people dead, the media, those of us who will be a thorn in his flesh, we could have disappeared. So on that aspect, I've always felt that he just had to take the blame to protect those who are actually behind them.
Now, another part of that story and that era, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I recall that during that period or that era, we relied more on the international press for our news, or for the kind of news that you couldn't actually put out locally. So for some of us, the BBC and the foreign media, which you reported for, were what we had to rely on for our news. That was the situation, right?
Yes, that was true. I mean, the private newspapers, and there was a licensing regime. At the end of every year for the newspaper, you should go to the Ministry of Information to get a license to publish the following year. So of 8 pages or 10 pages, 12 pages, they use 1 page for politics. So West African Magazine was published in London, and there are times that they will seize it at the airport, will smuggle a copy in and make photocopies. You had to listen to the BBC to know what was happening in this country.
Yes.
It was a bit dangerous, but as if you look back, at times me and Kokubak, we laugh. You look back, it's as if you had been injected with some madness. Knowing that in the early days of the revolution, judges had disappeared. You could disappear, but I don't know. I mean, it was just something that we kept going. People, spent. And one of the things Rawlings, I know, did not like was, us talking about people being tortured. And I said, look, but, when I was arrested during my 5 months solitary and during interrogation, I told them some of the worst things I had left out. They said I had done a story that somebody had removed his shirt and shown the scars in the purple tribe when I had written about it. And I told them the worst ones I had seen that I had left out. Because I had to balance being a Ghanaian, having a Ghanaian passport, and letting the world know what was going on. Talking about somebody's back being cut and giving to 1 to 2 was an example of torture going on. But like less nasty ones, like male organs being put in fire and so on, I kept it out because I was a Ghanaian. So you had to kind of have a balance, which was not easy, was not easy. But I think for God and country, we've managed to survive.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ben Singh, for your insights. I'm sure there's a whole lot that you know about and you can share about your time or your coverage of former President Jerry Rawlings. But thank you very much. That's what we'll take for now. But I think we should sit down and have a much lengthier conversation about the man, Jerry John Rawlings. That was Ben Singh, the managing editor of the Dispatch, the Daily Dispatch newspaper. Now, staying still on the Rawlings, a former member of the Council of State, Guli Na Seidu Brahima, has eulogized former President Jerry John Rawlings, describing him as bold, honest, courageous, and an incorruptible person. He said the former president throughout his tenure at the Osu Castle was never swayed into dipping his hand illegally into the country's purse. Gulina, who served for 17 years in the NDC administration of the former president, noted that the only way that Ghanaians can honor his memory is to abide by his principles of probity and accountability. Joynews Upper West correspondent Rafiq Salam reports from Wa.
When he arrived in Wahia, the man has come. But people were afraid.
Then a teacher first met young Flight Lieutenant Jerry Rawlings in his first visit to Wa shortly after the December 1981 coup at the Warner's Palace, where he served as his Wali translator.
By the end of this, and when the man was on top of his Land Rover and talking, he needed somebody. They were looking around and one not. Well, there was a young man, a young teacher who stood by and was stretching his neck hard. Yeah. I just don't know, but whether I could get the message along. I said yes. So they managed to lift me up to the Land Rover at the Warner's Palace. Well, when I was translating whatever I was telling the people.
And then he used to tell the people.
Oh yes, oh yes. Because the way he would deliver the message, I also try as much as possible to deliver the message in the Wali language to the people that way, so that they will feel it.
He later went through an interview and appointed as the Wa District Chief Executive, a position he served for close to 17 years, thus making him Ghana's longest served District Chief Executive.
For one to appreciate the work and the development that former President Jerry Rawlings has brought to the people of the Upper West region, first, you need to look at how the situation was before. Wa had no roads. The only prominent road in Wa was from the police station down to Kachatia, thereabout. That was only single lane, it was not even dual. Just a few portions of it even tarred. And there were even potwells. I wouldn't even say potholes. Not only that, other main roads in Wa were developed. The main ring road at that time, which people call Ring Road, and we thought that it was even far removed from town, was, you know, the area I stay right now, between Tendamba schools to hospital area. That was the Ring Road then. It was not well developed. But during Rawlings regime, that road was developed. If you think of electricity then, maybe I can't fathom seriously, because Dr. K. Bujia started something, but it was not well developed. Maybe just to some few areas with concrete pools and what were not there at that time. No clean water. People were drinking from the ponds. People shared water with animals. That's what that was. It's not an insult. We were underdeveloped. Seriously. So if you get up and you don't have water to drink, what do? You just drink from any available liquid that you think is water. So people were down with guinea worms. Guinea worm was just a common word, especially in the rural areas. Go there, you see people being attacked by guinea worms, unable to work.
Gurena Sirubrahma noted that the greatest legacy left for the people of the Upper West region by the former president is the partitioning of the region from the then Upper region.
Former President Jerry Rawlings affectionately called here, Daudier, to wit, colored man is gone. But for the people of the Upper West region, his memory lives on. He has done tremendously well for the people of the Upper West region. As a result of that, they are saying he will live in their hearts forever. Reporting for Joynews, Rafiq Salam. Wow.
The West African Examinations Council, WAEC, has released provisional results of candidates who sat for the West African Senior School Certificate Examination this year. According to the examination body, this follows the completion of all post-examination processes. Examination results will be dispatched to the various senior high schools. Therefore, candidates are advised to contact their heads of school for their results. The council has also posted the results online for candidates who so desire to access their results on its website at www.waecgh.org. It further advised candidates to be wary of fake results websites and the activities of fraudsters who promise to upgrade results for a fee. Meanwhile, the subject results of 2,383 candidates have been cancelled for engaging in collusion, bringing foreign material to the examination hall and tearing part of their question papers to solicit assistance. The council also stated that the entire results of 480 candidates have been cancelled for bringing mobile phones to the examination hall, and the entire results of 384 candidates have been withheld, pending the conclusion of investigations into various cases of examination malpractice. Now, the West African Examinations Council has today released provisional results of candidates who sat for the WASI. Now, for English language, for A1 to C6, 57.34% was the were those who had that, and then for D7, 18.646%, and then E8, 12.59%. Then F9, 42,500, that's 11.45%. In core mathematics, right, so in 2020, 57.34% of candidates pass English language, and an 8.38% increase from the 2019 performance. In core mathematics, 67.71% passed in 2020, a marginal increase in the pass rate of 2.4. On the other hand, integrated science and social studies recorded a decline in the performance of candidates at grade A1 to C6 in 2020 as compared to 2019.
Hello there, it's now time for business. Preparations for Ghana to host the 2021 African Development Bank Annual General Meeting in Accra has begun. As part of the agenda for the meeting, the members of the bank will look at ways to push for debt forgiveness for both the continent as well as surviving the global financial crisis which has risen out of COVID-19. There is more in this report.
As part of the mandate for hosting the annual general meeting of the African Development Bank, Ghana is expected to make available services needed for effective organization and success of the meeting. Among other things, Ghana will also use the occasion to open up its hospitality and tourism potential to other African nations. Minister for Finance Kenneth Oriata believes that members of the African Development Bank will conclude the meeting with a common voice on finance in their economies.
We've gone through a COVID period in which this year, I can't even count the number of conferences that have been postponed. So it's important to begin to line up. Ghana is back, Ghana is revitalizing. But the most significant issue is, as I mentioned, our president is a champion for financial institutions for the AU. He's also co-chair for the SDGs, and then is also the ECOWAS chair. So really, it's a very important event in which his influence will be brought to bear, and for us to fight about the whole issue of Africa's debt situation, and to confront the whole issue of the current global financial architecture, which we feel is unfair and unregulated and not fit for purpose for the future. So it's going to be a forum in which Africa will speak loud and clear about where we think that should go.
Secretary General of the African Development Bank Group, Professor Vincent Nehele, said the meeting will present a perfect opportunity for the bank to engage individual member states on social protection concerns.
Our farmers and all that. Of course, in bigger economies, when things of this nature happen, you see the trillions upon trillions of dollars that are approved to reach out to their people. They give them money, they pay for loss of income for a period of time when economies are locked down. In a typical African environment, I wonder which economy you're going to lock down. Is it the one that happens in my village, or the ones that happens in Accra, or the ones that happens in your village? The people say, we're ready to die because if we don't sell the tuber of yam, I'm not going to feed my kids. So it becomes a very difficult situation. So social protection is one area that COVID has shown that Africa needs to pay more attention. And the bank is really going to use the spirit to engage with member countries on a number of things on how to deal with the situation that will cushion the effects of similar circumstances when they do arise in the future.
A common roadmap has been drawn for the successful meeting next year.
Now, the Spanish ambassador to Ghana, Alicia Rico Perez, says Ghana holds a big market in the African Free Trade Agreement area, and therefore women entrepreneurs should take advantage and build relationships to boost their visibility. She spoke at an annual networking conference organized by Vilemi Company Limited in collaboration with the Women in Tourism Ghana, the Queen Mother's Foundation of Ghana, as well as the Olive 360 Limited. There is more in this report.
Women Connect Conference is a forum designed to synergize the capabilities of women some more by creating strong and sustainable network. The main theme of this is to progressively expand the network of successful Ghanaian women globally. Speaking at the program, the Spanish ambassador, Alicia Rico Perez, urged women to take advantage of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement to increase their visibility and power.
But the African Free Trade Continental Agreement will be a total game changer. It will be a transformation of this continent. It will open up a big single market. And the opportunities that this will provide for business, we're speaking about, as you know better than I do, a market that in 2050 will have 2.5 billion people. And we're calculating a combined gross domestic product of about $3 trillion. So this will create great opportunities also in the face of the fourth industrial revolution and all the possibilities that the new technologies will offer. And Ghana precisely is one of the countries that has done most in digitalization and in cutting edge technologies. So I think you can also use this and see leverage on this and see what possibilities all these new technologies will offer to this continent and to Ghana in particular.
An empowered woman is said to not only be productive to herself, but to her society and the world at large. Mildred Dodu's report for Joy Business.
And that'll be it for business sports.
Good evening and welcome to the second part of the sports segment here on the Joy News Prime with me, Oreku Wampo. For news just trickling in is the fact that the Ghana Football Association has had to cancel the first match, that's the season opener, between Aduana Stars and Heart of Oak. Now, this is due to the fact that Heart of Oak needed further tests on their players and officials before playing a match. So they needed to take further COVID-19 tests. Now, this is because just last week, the club reported that they had 3 coronavirus cases after completing their preseason in Cape Coast. And so the news just coming in is that that match, unfortunately, would not be coming on. And the Ghana Football Association has involved all stakeholders and parties involved in the match that the match would certainly not be coming on tomorrow. So we'll be bringing you updates on how that story develops and how it affects the whole Ghana Premier League as a whole. Is the league ready to be played amidst the coronavirus? So we're having this discussion at 9:30 p.m. when the GPL Primer comes your way. So you can tune in for that as well. But we'll still be doing some Ghana Premier League stories here, where it's still set to commence tomorrow, even without the Heart of Oak match. There's still been questions flying around with the lack of a headline sponsor to support the clubs financially. Now, Secretary General of the Ghana Football Association, Prosper Harrison-Addo, says it is not mandatory for the competition to have a headline sponsor.
This question again, headline sponsor is not compulsory. If we get it, fine. If we don't get it and we can get a lot of category sponsorships, that will do for us. So we'll strive to get sponsorship across all the various categories, naming rights sponsor, airline sponsor. Any sponsor is welcome to come on board, and there are various engagements going on. So what I would say is that immediately we sign one, we will announce it. Oh, you see, we are in a very difficult time. You cannot legislate for sponsors. A sponsor can sign and say, I don't want the fanfare. I just want to sign and contribute. So it depends on the engagements. Various companies we are dealing with have their management, they have their board, they have their shareholders. Some of the engagements are far advanced, but they have to also go through their processes. You don't want a company coming to sign without the approval of their board, their shareholders, and things like that. So we would continue to engage. We have Star Times, we have Macron, we have Intercity STC, and various partners are coming on board. We urge all of them to come on board, and the door is open for any company to come on board, to come and support as we push forward Ghana football.
Still on the subject of the Ghana Premier League, and Chief Executive Officer of Liberty Professionals, Linda Anson, says that the club's main target is to fight for a top 5 finish in the 2020-2021 Ghana Premier League season, which gets underway this weekend. The Scientific Soccer lads are in good stead ahead of their opening game against Bechem United on Sunday, and Linda Anson has no doubt the Dansoman-based club will excel this season. So we'll try and get you that story, and before we do go, or then we might even bring it to you in the GPL primer. But then let's move to the referees. We know that the football would be played on the pitch by the players, but then the referees themselves are also getting ready, and referees manager Alex Cote expects match officials in the Ghana Premier League this season to live up to the hefty expectations.
This year's league is going to be very competitive. Clubs have prepared very well. They've invested a lot. Referees must be up to the task. They should not take for granted any appointment that they get. They shouldn't take it for granted. They are going to be monitored from afar, and they will not know who is there to monitor them or who is there monitoring them. The assessors panel is going to be in charge. They will be going around every center to watch each and every referee, so that if they think that, oh, they are free and so they can do their own thing, well, it is wrong. Okay, so to my referees, all that I'm asking from them is that we have given them enough education that they actually need, and we expect them that they live up to the task. Ethics is watching them. That is what we told them. The ethics committee has opened their eyes very wide, and they are watching each and every one. They shouldn't fall prey to such, things from the clubs and that sort of thing. The FA has managed to get some sponsorship for their travels, that's with SSTC.
So we'll be playing the full interview of what we just showed you from Alex Cote when the GPL primer comes your way at 9:30 p.m. How differently are referees going to approach the season, considering the history that referees have in the Ghana Premier League? But I did speak about the CEO of Liberty Professionals, Linda Anson, who said that her club will be aiming for a top 5 finish this season.
At the end of the season, we should be at least top 5. Because, I mean, those who've known Liberty for a long time have known that we just survive. We are not big on winning the league or anything. But what I've also realized is that people want to be affiliated to a winning team. And so as much as we do our business by just surviving in the league, we also need to get our supporters excited about the club. And it also helps in marketing, getting sponsorships and all that. So first and foremost, we need to be in the top 5. Secondly, I'm sure you have experienced or you've witnessed the magic that my boys are doing on the pitch. We've been able to scout new players, promote some from our academies. We've bought some from other clubs. So we have a really good mix. And this season, I'm very confident that we're going to do very well.
Well, that would be wrapping up for the sports segment here. We went very heavy on the Ghana Premier League because it does commence tomorrow. But there's been 2 breaking stories concerning the Ghana Premier League. The first one is the matches would be played behind closed doors. And the second one is that the season opener between Aduana Stars and Heart of Oak has been cancelled because Accra Heart of Oak need further tests on their players and officials. We'll be right here to bring you the latest in the Ghana Premier League. That's the Joy Sports team, and you can follow us on social media. My name is Oreku Wampofo, and that's the sports for now.